Hey everyone, welcome back to the AddMeGamers channel. This is Dan, and today I'm going to be continuing my coverage of the Msi Pro Cup 12 tournament in StarCraft, of course. And today we're going to be having TSLPolt versus AcerBly in the map of Tal'Dramultir. Tal'Dramultir, as most of you know, is pretty much the same as most of the maps. You do have that initial high ramped base, followed by that secondary base, which is slightly medium leveled out, and which really allows just that one entrance into those bases. So most of the players will usually go for that second base and pretty much wall off that wall, that actual ramp itself. Anyways, back down to the game. In Tal'Dramultir, on the bottom right side we have AcerBly as the blue Zerg player, and on the top left we do have TSLPolt as, of course, the red Terran player. So far nothing really much is happening. Of course, both the players are trying to get those drones and SCVs up as fast as possible so they can get those life-saving crystals. We do have that overlord coming down by AcerBly to try to scout out. He does believe he's at the bottom left position, but unfortunately he is not. So he's going to be, of course, moving it up to try to find TSLPolt, so he should be able to find him once that overlord gets there. But it might be a little bit too late, as that first Marine might be already in play. So it really depends upon how much he might want to use that overlord to scout. We do, of course, have that overlord on the front ramp to be able to scout out any pushes coming in, the second hatchery coming along for AcerBly. And so far TSLPolt is going pretty early for that second command center. He did place it down. Did he even go for that barracks? No, he did skip the barracks and he went down for that command center first. Of course, a little bit of harass happening. He's forced to pull down a secondary SCV. TSLPolt has 2 more SCVs, so that's 1 SCV down from the actual production line. So now both SCVs are going to attack and kill that drone off. So that's just the 1 unit lost by AcerBly. I don't know why he didn't move that drone back. It was really a waste. Now finally the barracks comes up. But it is a command center first build for TSLPolt, and that hatchery, of course, for AcerBly is halfway through though. But I do believe TSLPolt is a little bit behind, though. That hatchery did drop for AcerBly a little bit ahead. So far nothing really happening. Let's take a look at the production tab. We do have that spawning pool coming online as well, so we should see a couple of Zerglings as well. TSLPolt is going to be, of course, producing that first Marine the moment that barracks is completed. So far so good. It really depends on how each player decides to continue this game. Finally the Overlord is managing to reach the base, so he is going to be going for that primary base scout out. It really depends if he'd want to move down or not, to use it as a sacrificial scout, because I do believe that first Marine is going to be churning out, so that Overlord won't really survive in case he decides to push out with that scout by the Overlord. So really AcerBly has something to think of if it's worth sacrificing that 1 Overlord to scan. And of course we do have that second Overlord being routed all the way around as well, so we might have a sacrificial scout, by those Overlords. So it really depends. 2 more Queens coming online for AcerBly, so they're going to be throwing down those larvae on that hatchery itself, increasing the production of larvae. So he is really going on larvae heavy. And finally we do have that SCV coming down by TSLPolt being able to move in. Of course the Queen's being pulled off the line to try to take that SCV out. He did scan what he could. Unfortunately he didn't manage to reach, actually he did actually manage to reach that spawning pool, so he knows about that, but he has no idea if there's anything else hidden on the other side. So far I do believe that scout for TSLPolt was pretty successful. Of course we do have those 2 Zerglings on the Zalaga towers, so far the center scouting is going down to AcerBly though. Is he going to be moving in with those Overlords? No, he's just moving just a little bit closer with those Overlords. And that secondary Overlord was cancelled, and it was, no, it is actually still continuing to move there. So nothing really happening. We do have finally that engineering bay coming online, so we should see that 1-1 upgrade. I do believe he might be going for that Marine one. We do have that factory early on, so is he going for that hot swap? No, he is probably going to be producing those double Hellions, since he's moving it down to the reactor. So it's going to be a little early on. Hellion harass, yes, we do have those double Hellions online. And he is going to be producing, is he going to be producing another attachment for these barracks or no? I don't believe so. We do have 2 more barracks, so it's a 3-rack, 1 factory push so far from TSLPolt's side. He's going to be going for that early Hellion harass. But will AcerBly be able to sustain this? So far he does have a lot of these Queens available, so these Queens are pretty much effective against the Hellions, since the Hellions do really very little damage against the Queens, but not really enough damage to take the Hellions down pretty quickly. So the Hellions should be able to take a few of these drones out before they do drop by the Queens. Of course that 1 upgrade coming on since the engineering bay is complete, and we finally do have that tech lab, so we're going to have some Marauder production from here, and 2 Marauder, pretty heavy Marauder production, and So double Marauders and double Marines coming from the reactor. So far he's equaling it out in terms of production. Very rare to see. Most of the Terran players do prefer to produce more Marines than Marauders, and they don't want to waste those resources to build that additional barracks just to produce that one extra Marauder. So he is trying to equal it out, balance it out really well. We do have that metabolic boost coming down for AcerBly, including those 1-1 upgrades as well. So far TSLPolt is only going for that one for the weapons. We do have Stim Research online, so we should see hopefully that hot swap and maybe those medevacs coming online since the Stim Research is coming online. Here comes that push with those Hellions. Hellions are moving forward. He did cancel, I do believe, that tumor. So that tumor was cancelled. I'm not sure if it was a tumor or not. I think it is a tumor. So he is with those Hellions, but of course he knows that, so he's producing those Zerglings. Zerglings won't really do much in terms of these Hellions, especially with the amount of Hellions. He should move in anyways and try to do as much damage as possible. Of course, these Queens are going to keep these Hellions at bay. So far he is obviously producing that Baneling less, so we're going to have maybe a couple of Banelings coming online. They should pretty much take those Hellions out as long as he does have those Centrifugal Hooks research online, otherwise they're pretty slow. So far, of course, AcerBly is really pushed in the corner. He's got to be pretty nervous since he does have 6 Hellions running around, 4 Hellions running around, 5 Hellions running around the map. So finally a couple of Banelings morphing in, so they should pretty much keep those Hellions at bay, though. But it is a very, very high trade. You know, those resources for Banelings to be able to bust those Hellions is a pretty high trade in terms of resources. So it is really still on equal terms, but unfortunately he didn't push out, so he is going to lose that Hellion harass advantage that he had against those drones, as we have a lot of Zerglings now, even though they will drop pretty quickly, but it's enough to slow those Hellions down, hopefully surround them, and those Banelings should be moving, and of course that Spine Caller as well being positioned forward. And here we finally do have pushes coming down online. He's going to be taking care of those tumors. TSLPolt's pretty much now going to be targeting, firing that Spine Caller. That Spine Caller pretty much dropped. Here comes those Banelings. Of course he knows that. He's going to be actually retreating. Yes, he is retreating. All those Marines and Marauders do drop, and more Banelings are being moved forward. Those Marauders pretty much did survive that Baneling bust. A couple of more Banelings did get target fired, and a very, very aggressive push by TSLPolt. Of course, no medevacs at all. He is steaming up these units, and he's going to be sacrificing these units. So this Spine Caller should pretty much drop as well. More scans, more tumors are going to be dropped. We do have those Centrifugal Hooks coming online, so those Banelings are going to be pretty much quicker. These Overlords might actually cope, but I don't really see that happening. This hatchery is going to drop. These Zerglings are going to be pretty much fried with the amount of Hellions and Marauders and Marines. So this is pretty much going to drop for AcerBly. I don't really see this on AcerBly's side. All these drones are going to drop as well, so not really anything really spectacular coming down for AcerBly. So far it really is looking up for TSLPolt. TSLPolt is really frying all these Zerglings, so he is building up a Zergling heavy push, including those Banelings, but he doesn't have enough really. All he's doing, those Banelings are getting targeted, fired. Maybe those Centrifugal Hooks might be able to turn the tide, but with the amount of Marauders he has online, those Banelings really won't do much damage, since the Marauders do have a good habit of being able to absorb all that damage. But though he does have no medevacs, so they won't really be able to continue this push, as they can't sustain that life, and as most of the Marauders are dead, they're going to be pretty much picked off by these remnants of that Zerglings and Banelings that AcerBly didn't manage to push off. And now he's going for that secondary hatchery, and if this drops, I do pretty much believe that the economy of AcerBly is down, and there's no way he'll be able to recover from this. Of course, we do have continuous streaming of Hellions and Marines and Marauders, so really TSLPolt is going for that Hellion, Marauder and Marine push pretty early on. He's not even going to be bothered going for those medevacs, as he is going to be sacrificing that steam just to be able to continue push out. And this is pretty much it for AcerBly. He is going for that Evolution Chamber again. TSLPolt's going to drop that Evolution Chamber with really no resistance whatsoever. Here come those reinforcements. We do have those Hellions and more Marines and Marauders. Here come a couple of Banelings trying to do that Baneling bust again in terms of taking out those units, and those units do manage to drop. And even though all these units did manage to drop by TSLPolt, this really isn't a game for AcerBly. I'm surprised he didn't already call it a good game, as there's no way he'll be able to recover from this. The economical advantage that TSLPolt has, especially with that third command center, and with that economy already up and running and those bases pretty much saturated, is really on the TSLPolt's side. Of course, that middle Zelnaga tower is there, and here comes another push. He doesn't really even have the units to sustain this. Those Banelings all alone won't really do much. He needs to get in those roaches and start to mix up his actual production tab that he's doing. He is just going for those Zerglings and Banelings, but they won't really do much good, since the Marauders will absorb those Banelings and they will survive, and those Zerglings are going to pretty much drop with those Hellions very quickly. A couple of investors coming online. I do believe this was a little Miss Micro by AcerBly. I miss Macro, and I don't know why he's going for those infestors. I would have went for those roaches, as roaches are substantially more efficient against those marauders, but again, the resources required to get those roaches, we do have those medevacs on the play. So I do believe this is the final push by TSLPolt. There's no way he'll be able to sustain this small little bio ball, but very effective. Those medevacs are going to keep those marauders pretty much alive, even though after those bailings do drop. So he's just checking up to see if that base got rebuilt, and nothing is rebuilt. So he is really going for that push again. We do have that second hatchery, which is not going to do really much good. Those infestors might throw down a few fungals, so here comes hopefully that targeted fungal. Is he going to be able to drop that fungal? No, he is retreating. A couple of steams online. That infestor did throw very nice fungal for those marines, but those two medevacs should try to keep those marines just that little bit longer as required, but of course he's going to be retreating. No burrowing research online. Those bailings did manage to pop, and we do have another fungal down on those marines. So really nice play in terms of AcerBly. He is really going all out. He is trying to counteract this production, but he really did need those infestors to take care of those Hellions pretty quicker, and we do have gained more reinforcements with 2 more medevacs, and this really pretty much is it. I don't believe this is gonna really help AcerBly at all, and of course he does call it a good game. So this is it for game 1 in terms of TSLPolt versus AcerBly in the Msi Pro Cup 12 number 12 tournament, and see you guys in game 2.